Firstly, look, thanks very much for coming along. Health and safety is a bit of a buzzword at the moment, and for us it's something that we've taken very seriously, but we've struggled to get a grips with how we actually manage you guys, which are our subtrades. There's obviously a lot of changes coming up, and we've all been waiting for those, which they come into effect on the 4th of April next year. You know, that's a target date that we're putting a mark in the sand to say that by that date we need to ensure that ourselves and all of our suppliers and subcontractors are compliant with the legal requirements of the Act. We're not going to ask you guys to do this by yourself. We are going to work together, and that's what today's about, is for what we can offer, what we require, and how we're going to get there, okay? At the end of the day, we want safer outcomes for ourselves and for our staff, and like many here, you know, we support a fair few people. If anything serious was to happen on any of our sites, it could be a major concern and detrimental to your business and to ours, and it's something that we're very, very keen to ensure doesn't happen. I think we also need to recognise that moving forward, the reality is that health and safety is going to be a component of tendering for work as well. So you might have the best price and everything else, but if your health and safety isn't up to speed and it doesn't comply, we're not going to get work. And that goes for all of us. So it's something that we need to consider as part of the bigger picture of all our businesses today. So what are we doing? Okay, so we're creating a health and safety pre-qualification process for all subcontractors. Now, that sounds pretty serious, but it's actually something that is a minimum requirement under the Act, that all of you guys have a health and safety policy, and that's what we're going to be looking at. Does your health and safety policy comply with what's required, and does it fulfil the legal obligations? We're going to be setting up a system for you guys, which will be explained throughout today, of how you get that information to us, how we check that information, and if there's anything that needs to be fixed, which I'm sure there is, it's not the end of the world. It's a matter of working together to try and actually fill the gaps in it, okay? We're going to set a minimum requirement for documentation that's got to be supplied to us to work on any of our sites. Now, I know there's a real buzzword again around TAs and task analysis, which, to be honest, we've been doing pretty badly ourselves, and it's something that we require from all of you guys as well. Today's about understanding what these things are and actually how we're going to get them. Again, we've got some people that can help with all of that. Bex, our health and safety manager, is going to talk to it, and so is Tanya from Lucas Safety, about how we're going to help you guys work through your TAs and your competency registers. So those are the things that we're going to need for site. Why are we doing it? Well, can I have a show of hands? Who's been injured at work here? I know I have. Who else has been injured? So 75% of the room has had a work injury. The reality is that, you know, it might be serious, it might be minor, but it's still an injury, and a lot of those injuries can be prevented if we follow procedures, and that's a big part of what we need to do, is put some procedures in place. So we are dedicated to the health and safety of all of our contractors and staff, and you guys should be as well. We're committed to ensuring we aim to have the highest level of health and safety in the industry. Now, that's a difficult one, and it's something that's going to take continual improvement. It's going to take time as well. But we need to start somewhere, and if we don't start somewhere and actually have a goal, we're never going to get there. And for us, near enough is not good enough. We're committed to fulfilling all our legal obligations, okay? Under the Act, as a main contractor, we have a legal obligation, but under the Act, you guys as subcontractors have a legal obligation as well. And all of us need to ensure we fulfill that legal obligation in case anything goes wrong. The potential is it will. We need to make sure all our contractors and staff go home safely at the end of the day. It's got to be our number one priority. Now, I know there's lots of things around zero tolerance for accidents and everything else, but you know, zero harm is a goal. I'm a realist. The reality is that people are always going to get hurt, but we need to have a goal again that we actually minimise what happens. We also need to do something for us as a main contractor, and that's manage the hazards that you guys bring to our sites. So as subcontractors, you create and actually bring different hazards to our site that weren't there before you started. You need to create those hazards effectively to do your job. We recognise that. This is actually about how do we actually manage them. So how are we going to help? That's pretty important, really. First, we're going to tell you exactly what we want. It's not endless, it's not major more than what you should be doing at the moment, but we will make some pretty clear expectations about what we want. Once it's in place, it's not that bad. It's very much about duplicating it and using the documentation. We're going to provide you some basic templates to start with. Now, they're a starting point. We expect you guys to take these templates and make them your own, basically. Ensure that the information we give you is just a starting point, because we don't want to see the same thing we've just given you blurted back to us. It needs to have your name and what you actually do stamped all over it. We're also going to provide you to access with a system called Beware. Now, some guys will talk to that shortly, but Beware is effectively a health and safety management system that we're using, and it's something that all of you guys as subcontractors get free access to initially. So what it means is that you can actually submit your documents to us in one place, and we can collate them in one place as well. For us, it's a very cost-effective system, and it ensures that all the information we're getting is actually located in an area that we can use in our SSSPs effectively. We're also going to connect you with some consultants that can fill any gaps if you need them. If you guys have a great health and safety policy, you're doing your TAs, your competency register up to date, you don't need help, that's fine. You're not obliged to use these people, but we're making them available for you guys as well, so that you're not left alone. So, expectations. So I've got to say that Jim and I have pretty high expectations when it comes to quality, and we've got pretty high expectations when it comes to health and safety as well. It's actually about the people on site. I'll be honest, I don't spend that much time on building sites. Chance of me getting hurt is pretty minimal. A lot of you guys work day in, day out as your staff do on the sites. That's where the risk sits, and we're going to need to ensure that those guys understand what we require. Your safety culture has to be in line with our culture. Now, it's not something that we expect straight away, but it is something, again, over time we will be working towards. Documentation. So you guys need to give the documentation that we require under the law. We don't create the law. It's pretty clear about what's required, but you must do that. The second part to that is it's majorly important that your staff and you guys who are carrying out the task on site do it as per your documentation. So it's no good having documentation sitting over here in a SSSP folder that doesn't match the task at hand. So that's something that we're going to be working very, very much with you guys on over the next few months to try and get all that stuff in place. So look, that's me starting. I'm going to hand you over to, I'll apologise now, to Evgeny from WorkSafe. He's going to give a bit of an overview of WorkSafe's position on things.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I was asked to talk today about new legislation. My name is Evgeny. I'm an assessment manager with WorkSafe in Christchurch, and predominantly looking after construction activities over the rebuild. So I'm not going to talk too much about the Act because it's going to need at least an hour, a couple of hours. We're going to talk about what the new Act is not, and all I'm going to say with regards to the new Act, that we have 8 new concepts that are being introduced in the new legislation, which include the concept of PCBU, which if you run your own small businesses, you will all become a person conducting business or undertaking under new law. Doesn't matter how big your company is. The meaning of worker, we're not going to have employees anymore. There's going to be a worker who's doing work, whether it's construction work, manufacturing work, whether it's any kind of work. We have primary duty of care introduced, which clearly outlines the responsibilities and duties. We have upstream activities duties. We have duty to cooperate and consult. Whenever you're working with your colleagues on site, whenever you're working with other businesses on site, you must consult each other about what you're going to do. You must ensure that the communication is there before you start to manage the risks. We have officers introduced in this legislation. So if you're a small business owner, you're likely to become an officer under new law. So it's not just the business that may be held liable, it's you personally as a director, because you have the powers, decision-making powers, you will become an officer. Stronger worker participation system for certain businesses, and actually stronger in general with regards to worker participation and regulatory toolbox. So we're going to have a lot more tools to deal with issues on site. So it's not just notices, we're going to have a few more powers there. So that's in essence new legislation. So let's have a look at some myths that we already heard circulating around. Well, we've got nothing to do with Santa parades, we're not banning children from farms. Nothing like that is going to happen. I mean, it's to some extent it's not, well, you can't take it seriously really, I suppose. And if someone gets injured on a rugby field, we're not going to prosecute the club. It's not serious. Yeah. So our aim is to reduce workplace fatalities and serious harm by 25% by 2020. We're doing that in high-risk industries. Construction is one of the high-risk industries in New Zealand, as well as manufacturing, agriculture, forestry. So the most of our resources are dedicated to work within these main industries, and we will be targeting serious risk. We're not interested in low-risk sectors. We will be dedicating our resources. Our inspectors will be going around construction sites. They'll be going to manufacturing places where people losing limbs, where people get injured, tripping, falling, and therefore we're having a high injury rate. So enforcement is an important part of what we do, but it's not all we do, all that we do. We do a lot of engagement. We do a lot of information provisions and education. I mean, a meeting like this, we're doing them almost on a daily basis. We're trying to get the information through, we're trying to educate people, and trying to bring the message through. WorkSafe is there, guys, not only as a regulator who is punishing you when you're not doing something wrong. We are there to help you. We are public servants. We are a free resource that is available for you. Whenever you have issues, we have 0800 number, call us, we'll help you. Okay, so it's just change. We're trying to change the mentality. We're not there to punish you, we're there to work with you, to help you. My inspectors will be happy to go around and give you a hand, give you an advice. Obviously not on small issues. We're not going to be able, we don't have resources to cover a single site, or you're going to be asking whether to fence or not. Yes, to fence. But if you have a critical task that you need to achieve and you're not quite sure whether you're correct or not, WorkSafe is there to help you. And we're not your safety consultants either. So, I mean, that's where we have to delineate and make that line in the sand. Yes, we will help you where we can. There is a lot of information on our website. We're doing a lot of breakfast. The next one will be Construction Roadshow, which will be, I think, in the end of October, early November, around Christchurch and further down south. We're doing this to promote our initiatives and engagement and get you ready for this new legislation. All right? Because when new legislation kicks in, you're not going to be asking a question, what's my role is, or what my duty is, what's my role is and whether I have a duty. The question to ask will be, what is the extent of my duty? Okay? And sensible approach, that's what we do. We're trying to be proportionate. We're trying not to use hefty enforcement for minor issues. We will work with you, we will talk with you, but we have some critical risks that need to be managed. And if you guys creating these risks, you should be able to manage them. And it's in conjunction with Jim the Builder. If you are their contractors, they will be expecting you to provide a task analysis, SSSP, JSA, whatever, and they have to make sure that you've got it right. They have to ensure that when you go on site, you have safe working environment. Therefore, they fulfill their duty and you fulfill their duty. And you have this communication process going back and forth. Yeah, so paper cards is not a big deal. It's not going to be expensive to comply. That's a lot of problems. The most important thing to remember is paper does nothing. You may be required to produce a safety, safe work method statements, how it's going to be called in the new legislation probably, and you will be required to outline the way you're going to do the work. But unless you follow the paper or you outline on the paper how the task is going to look like, there's no value in the paper. You may provide it to your principal, but then do something completely different and fail. And that's where the problem will exist. So it's not about the amount of paperwork, it's about what you actually do on site. You have to ensure that you're following the hierarchy of controls. If you can't eliminate, then you follow it down to minimization within certain hierarchy, and you have appropriate controls in place, and you keep your people safe. All right? New Act provides for imprisonment as well as hefty fines. To give you an idea, current legislation fines are 500,000. New legislation for body corporate $3 million. For individuals now, I think it's 50,000, will be 600,000. So businesses can't afford to be prosecuted. And the prosecution is one of the tools that we have. But to give you an idea, last year we received, I think, just around 780 or so serious harm notifications that were investigated. Out of those 750, we prosecuted on 106 occasions. So prosecution, it's the last resort for us. When we clearly see that duty holders completely failed to achieve safety on site to ensure that their staff are safe, then we take it further. But before we do that, we have loads of different tools. I mean, we will work with you. It's just a matter of you guys understanding that you have to work with us and do your part in ensuring your employees' safety or your workers' safety under the new law. Yeah, I've mentioned the paperwork. It's all about risk. You creating the risk, you have to manage the risk. There is no other way here. So, in a nutshell, leaders need to step up and be accountable. You guys running your own businesses, even if you're a self-employed contractor, who engages somebody else, you are a PCBU. So you will have all the same requirements, you'll have all the same duties under the Act. Identify and manage your risks. That's where SSP is generally helpful. Break down your task. You all specialists in what you do. We're not telling you how to do the job, but we may tell you how to potentially control the risks. Okay. As was mentioned before, it should be a part of your organizational culture. If you don't have a culture of caring about each other on site, then it's probably going to fail at some point in time. But if your workers are empowered enough to actually say, hey, I don't feel it's safe to do this, then they should be able to say that. You should develop this culture. Get your workers involved. That's very important. You can't do anything without your workers. You can't try to build a culture from the top without involvement of your guys. And we will engage and support you. We're going to publish a lot of information soon about this new legislation. We've got currently a lot of documents on the website that you can look up and refer to, whether it's residential construction, whether it's commercial construction. I think we've covered most critical topics very well. And there is more coming. The more will be coming, and more information on the new act, on the actual guidance, how to fulfill your duty will be there. So, website and 0800 number. Don't be shy, give us a call, ask a question. That's what we're here. That's our job, that's what we do. And we encourage people to actually get in touch with us. We would rather work with you proactively than respond to accidents. We are also on Twitter and on Instagram. So yeah, get in touch, look up our website. I've seen already in your packs you have new legislation information that was printed out from our website. Well done, guys. There is something for you to read and consider. Yeah, and the last one I think there, the ultimate goal, we care, that's our mission. We want to ensure that everyone who goes to work comes home safe. So it's in your hands, guys. Work together, have a good communication in place, and WorkSafe will support you through this.
Hi guys, today I'm just going to talk to you about our pre-qualification process and our site-specific safety documentation requirements. Safety is paramount to Jim the Builder, and we have a primary duty of care to ensure the health and safety of our workers and others affected by the work carried out by our businesses. We're dedicated to making sure each of our workers, whether employees or contractors, go home safely every day. And to ensure this happens, we're rolling out some improved contractor safety processes. We are creating a health and safety pre-qualification process for all our suppliers and contractors. And we're also setting a minimum requirement of required site-specific documentation that must be submitted prior to starting works on our site. So what's involved? We need to understand how you manage your safety and know that you're committed to the same standards as we are. In order to achieve this, our contractors will need to complete and return a contractor safety agreement, complete a contractor pre-qualification questionnaire via the Beware software, online software system, and we also require you to supply a health and safety policy. We don't require our subcontractors to supply a SSSP, as when you're working on our sites, you'll utilise Jim the Builder's SSSP documentations. However, for all significantly hazardous works, contractors must provide a couple of documents prior to commencement of the task. So what we need, the couple of documents are a task analysis, and this needs to be site-specific as possible based on the plans and scopes. We also require a training and competency register, and this must include all the staff who will be working on site. To assist you, we have developed templates that you may wish to use. These documents will be reviewed by Jim the Builder, a representative, and must be authorised by us before you can start work. So how will this all happen? To ensure that we get this safety documentation, what we'll do is we'll send you out the relevant information, the plans and scopes, and request the relevant safety documentation to be submitted via the software program Beware. We will review your site-specific safety documentations, and if there are any changes required, we'll let you know as soon as possible so that you can amend and resubmit until approved. Work cannot commence until the safety documentation has been approved. Once approved, we'll confirm this to you and work may commence. On site, each TA must be reviewed, amended, signed and dated by all involved workers prior to starting work. We will monitor subcontractor safety performance on an ongoing basis to ensure that safety standards are upheld on site. We require your pre-qualification documentation to be renewed annually, and we'll notify you when to start the renewal process. You can also update your pre-qualification documentation at any time, so as your health and safety culture grows, your documentation can reflect this. And finally, all the information I've just covered off, and as Andrew mentioned, that what I've just mentioned is in your subcontractor pack, and yeah, the aim is to make this process as easy and as stress-free as we can for you guys. Thank you.
Right, guys, I won't take too much time. I'll keep it short and sweet. Who watched the rugby match Sunday morning? Yeah, everyone remembers the Japan match, hey? Anyways, I'm from Safe Rebuild Canterbury. Some of you guys have heard of us before and had some engagement with us. Others haven't. What we are is a fully funded health and safety training provider. We are only there to assist you guys. As Andrew has pointed out to you, well, there's a lot of changes coming about, and sometimes it might seem a bit daunting to you guys, but it's not really. It's things that most of it had to be in place already, things that you should have been doing already to begin with. So our job is basically to assist you guys through that. We are fully government funded. Government have seen the need for smaller businesses like yourself that you might have some difficulties getting on board with the changes. So that's our main aim. How we do it is you guys have to attend a training course. It's 4 hours long. The course is free, and then post course we'll have a one-on-one training with you guys. I mean, you don't just get anywhere free one-on-one training. And during the training, coaching, mentoring, we'll go on sites. We do informal site audits. We do look at compliance. We look at assisting you guys with filling in your SSSPs, task analysis. Even those ones that you receive from Andrew, we'll assist you through with actually filling it in and giving more information of how it really works, basically. And like they pointed out, it's not about the documentation. It's about keeping the workers safe. It's making them understand why it's important to fill it in, basically. Because most of the time, when we go on sites, we talk to everyone. The guys say, yeah, it's just about compliance. You know what I mean? The boss just wants us to do it. It's not about that. The boss actually wants to keep the workers safe. And so most of the time, the workers don't understand that. And that's where we come in to make it easier for the workers to understand the importance of it, basically. So like I said, you can contact us via our website or on the flyer over here on the inside. There's a card. You can just email the card with saying that you're interested in attending one of our courses, and then we'll get in contact with you guys. That's all.
All right, good afternoon everyone. My name's Tania and I'm just going to have a quick chat to you about just in a little more detail around what Jim the Builder needs for you guys. And I just want to reiterate that this isn't about documentation. It really is all about keeping people safe, getting you guys home to your wife, your husband, your children, etc. at the end of the day. So the documentation puts the process in place to keep you safe. So it's not about ticking boxes, it's not about paperwork, but that does record your process. And if you follow those steps, then you're much more likely to go home at the end of the day all in one piece. So what Jim the Builder have kindly done to help you guys out is, first of all, communicate exactly what they need. So if you have any questions about that, I'm sure Bex will be able to illuminate that further for you. But it's going to be really clear that you're going to need just a few simple documents to get onto the site and get work underway. And the important thing about that is that those documents are live. You will get to site, there will be things that you didn't anticipate. You've got to use that on site, so your task analysis, review it, involve all your workers, get them to identify the hazards, talk through the controls, talk through your process, change your process if you need to. It's about making that document real and using it on site to cover what you're actually going to do. So there are some templates and these can get sent out to you if you don't have something in place. You may very well already have something. So there's a task analysis one. And I'll just talk a little bit about TAs. See a lot of TAs floating around that have never been opened, never been touched, miss all the steps, miss the hazards. So this is a really, really important document. It's like your safe operating procedure. You should be able to fill in these details easily enough. But what it's about is recording your sequence of work. It's every step that you need to do to complete your task. And at each step, you'll identify all of the hazards that are going to be present and how you're going to control those. It's really important to use that hierarchy of control. So if you can eliminate it, eliminate it. If you can't, try and isolate it. If you can't isolate it, minimize it. And if you're minimizing it, you really need to be monitoring it quite closely. So don't just jump straight to minimize. We'll just whack on some PPE, it'll be fine. Make sure you go through that hierarchy and do the very best that you can there. This document, again, it's not going to keep you safe, but it's just a thinking process. It's a prompt for you. You might have a generic kind of a task analysis. If you're always doing an electrical pre-wire, for example, you have a generic one. When you get to site, there'll be some of those controls that aren't practical. There'll be some hazards that you hadn't encountered before, you hadn't didn't think that they would be there. So update it on site and then make sure that you list all of the controls in enough detail that people can understand them. So that's pretty much what the TA is about. If you need a hand, we can give you a hand. Safe Rebuild can give you a hand. You guys will know your task. You might just need some assistance around what's the appropriate control there. So that's a really, really critical document. And if you're going to focus on anything first, that'd be the one. The other things are a training and competency register. So you guys need to legally have a record of all of your workers' training and competency at the moment. You can keep that any which way you like. We've done a little template so that if you don't have a way of keeping it at the moment, you can use this, you can tweak it, be editable, do whatever you like with it. But you just need to record all of the things that are relevant to their work. If you're a Sparky, you're going to be a registered electrician. If you're a builder, you're an LBP. Everyone should have a site-safe passport. There might be competencies that you assess. If you've got guys using power tools, drop saws, it's probably a good idea to check that they actually know how to use those tools safely and verify their competence. So you can record all of that kind of information, first aid certificates, on a register, and then you can use that to keep yourselves up to date. You can see whose training's about to expire, where there might be gaps, and that's just kind of like your master guideline of where everyone's at. So those are the two documents that will need to come through per site. In addition to that, you'll need a wee health and safety policy, and you may, if you're doing anything really high risk, need rescue plans if you're using harnesses and whatnot. That's not going to affect most of you, so we won't go into too much detail. And if you've got notifiable works as well, so if you're erecting scaffolding over 5 metres, working in a trench deeper than 1.5, etc. All of that information is on the WorkSafe website. But if you've got notifiable works, you guys need to notify, but you also need to give that information to Jim the builder, so making sure that comes through as well. And there is a pre-qualification questionnaire that Bex mentioned earlier. So don't be scared by that. It is a really simple process, and we're not expecting to build Rome in a day here. If you're answering no to some of these questions, don't freak out about it. It's just so that we know where you're all at. We can identify the gaps and we can work with you to get up to where we need to be.
Look, we understand that there's a fair bit of information to take in. We're not taking a big stick approach to it, but something that I do need to make clear is that our target date, which is April next year, if you guys don't meet these requirements, we will not be in a position to do business together until those requirements are met. That is the bottom line. We have a risk that we need to manage. You guys have a similar risk as well. We want to help. We're here. If you've got questions, we've got the resource with Bex, and these guys are all here. All the information's in the pack. If you need to find out more information, just ask. We want to help. It's as simple as that.